What's going on, everybody? It's the Answers. So about a week ago, I put out a distress call, or just a call to arms to see if anyone would be interested in leaving some questions. It was just a way for me to interact with you guys because I really, enjoy making these videos and would like to, be able to do more of these within the future. So these are going to be the answers to the questions that I received. Like I said in the video, I would be answering the questions on Friday the 15th and then posting the video on September the 16th of January 2021. It feels weird to say January 2021, but we're going to jump right into this. So I appreciate everybody that did leave a comment, and let's see what we got here. So Kayla wants to know what's my favorite, or what movie has my favorite soundtrack? What makes it my favorite? Well, right off the bat, I thought of three movies that I think the soundtracks are just bananas, and they go as follow. The Warriors. Why? I think the soundtrack for The Warriors, it's full of very fitting music of the time, i.e., the song In the City, I believe by Joe Walsh. Even the score within the film is fantastic, but I just think every musical cue within that movie fits, like the opening, the ending, everything within the middle. That's just an all-around kick-ass film in terms of sound design. I think they really nailed it, and I feel like The Warriors is a movie that I need to sit down and re-watch, definitely. I even got the game on PS2, so since we're in this new second lockdown, that gives me an excuse to actually go through that game again, because for anybody that hasn't played the Warriors game on PlayStation 2 or the original Xbox, you're missing out. I did pick a few other films to discuss the soundtracks. This movie's not so much a soundtrack, but once again, the score, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. An amazing spaghetti western. I believe 1964, I want to say. Of course, Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, the fucking great Eli Wallach, who played Tuco in the film. I'm a diehard Italian exploitation kind of fan, and a lot of people don't realize that love this movie. You're loving a movie that was not supposed to go that far. It's not a John Wayne film. It is a Clint Eastwood film, and Clint Eastwood, of course, had a name at the time, but this is a Italian sort of, just B picture that turned into a masterpiece, sort of like Jaws in a way, which also, actually, when I think about it, Jaws, other than the main sort of John Williams' little Jaws theme to it, I don't think that soundtrack is that great, and a lot of people have argued that it's very sort of Goonies-esque, mini Mickey Mousey kind of feel to it, and I agree with that. So Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, of course, amazing score. And Ennio Morricone, the famous, sound designer, or just musician in general. He's done tons of movies, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much of his music they've heard throughout the years. And lastly, I had to really throw in a horror film in there. And again, this is more of a score than it is a soundtrack, and that's going to be Halloween. Because I think that the Halloween theme, it's so fucking engraved in my head as this. When I hear it, I think of fear. I think of being a kid. My cousin Chris can attest to this, man. We would sit there, watch these movies, beg to watch these movies, and then basically fucking bawl our eyes to sleep because we were so scared. My cousin was affected by that soundtrack especially, and I think John Carpenter did a spot-on job. As far as I remember, he didn't have that long to work on the score of the film, which is crazy because, you're designing a score for an entire hour-and-a-half long feature, and it goes to show you his dedication to his work was sublime. So, Kayla, I appreciate the question. Great question, by the way. And we're going to move along to the second question here. We got from Nick Joyce, my brother, a.k.a. Afrodeath. He's kind of got a pretty loaded question here, or a series of questions, so we'll get through these. What are some films from any genre you'd really recommend for folks to see? So, I think a lot of people... I'm going to name some movies that you may or may not have heard of. Nick, I know you've probably seen all these movies that I'm about to list, man. Videodrome, of course, is a classic. Return of the Living Dead is a classic. If you want to talk sort of exploitation-y films, you could, movies like Enter the Dragon, which is sort of a good little entrance, gateway film into the martial arts films, because a lot of people, when they think of Bruce Lee, Kung Fu films, they think of Enter the Dragon, they think of The Chinese Connection, Return of the Dragon, like all Game of Death, like that string of films. But don't overlook some of the other, more later on films that came out of like Hong Kong, i.e. The Killer from John Woo, Hard Boiled. Pretty much any Takashi Miike film, you're gonna get something out of that. So you got the Dead or Alive franchise, which I have up there on the watch pile. That's 3 films I plan on watching throughout the lockdown, making videos on those. Unfortunately, they're not on VHS, but what can you say? Some other really good ones. There's a lot of very cheesy movies you might not think are that great. I've mentioned this movie recently. It's called The Black Godfather. Now, Nick, I don't know if you've seen this film. I'll try to get a copy for it, or we'll watch it, or we'll watch it because I think it's really cool. There's another one called The Black Gestapo, which isn't as great, but it's pretty ridiculous. Some sleeper titles that you may or may not have seen before. Coffee, to get into the blaxploitation movement. You got Coffee, you got Sheba Baby, you got pretty much any Jack Hill film. He's done a lot of films from all sorts of different genres. Of course, it's hard for me to answer this question directed right at you, Nick, because like pretty much everything I've seen, you've seen. For those of you who don't know, Nick Joyce, the person that left this comment, is my little brother in real life, and I mean we've watched tons of stuff together. So it's hard to, he's seen Cannibal Holocaust. I'm pretty sure he's seen. He's seen Pink Flamingos from John Waters when we were like little kids. He was pretty young. I was pretty young as well. But so that's for me. If you want to know a more specific answer to that question, you'd pretty much have to ask me a specific genre, because this is a very fucking open question you got here. But we'll see what we got here. What are some anime series you like if you're into it? Well, I am into it, but it's hard for me to get into the anime too deep because, I'm more of, I like animes like Cowboy Bebop. I really liked Afro Samurai. Heavy metal, you probably can't consider that an anime, but, Akira. I think Akira is a masterpiece. If you have not watched that, definitely check it out. It's so fucking badass. Nick, if you want to watch that, get the copy off me. Don't watch it off the internet, because you're going to get the shitty fucking, the shitty voiceover that's less accurate to what's actually being said. So anime, I do like. If anybody knows of series that are like those ones that I mentioned, drop them in the comments. I believe I have Samurai Champloo, and I think one other one, I'm blanking on it, but it's something I would like to get into more, but it has to be, either near future, it has to be kind of, this is very fucking hard to, or it's probably stupid sounding, but if it's not like Akira or Cowboy Bebop or like Afro Samurai, I'm pretty much not interested, because I have a lot of other stuff I could be watching, and I can't really invest in something that's like 70 fucking seasons long, like a lot of animes are. So there's that. Nick, I know you love your anime. I know you're getting into like a lot of different stuff, which is cool. Out of the films you've made, what scenes were your favorites? Out of the films that I've made, one of my favorite scenes, of course, was when you, Nick, are dragging the old man through his kitchen and he's been stabbed in the neck. I think that's probably one of my favorite things. And of course, the knife throwing scene in Afrodeath. I think that was the first film we made with the college equipment, and it was still probably my favorite thing that we've made to this point. And I really gotta say, another scene that I really like from the films that we made was the shots of you riding the skateboard in the wallet. I thought that was really cool. It looked really badass. And I pretty much love all of the shots, especially even in the one that I didn't shoot every single one of my films. The two that I didn't were Midnight Marauder and The Purple Demon. I think The Purple Demon, it was shot by Kyle Dewar. I think he got some really good shots in there, like when you are coming up the stairs with the gun. All like pretty much a lot of that I really like, because I feel like I was really in the zone with that one. And working with a DP was something that was so new to me. Like, I'd worked with my buddy Ian on Midnight Marauder, and that was cool. But this was like the first time I'm working with a guy that like I can't really like joke around and like smoke weed with and stuff like that. It was a different sort of setup, but I really did enjoy that one. Moving along, what shots from your movies you found to be a pain to capture? that one in the wallet where it starts off from the outside, like the camera's pointing outside the window, and then it's on a slider and it moves back and then it tilts down onto you counting the money. I thought that was, you already know, that was a pain in the ass. Hasn't been too many ones that were like that bad. I mean, a lot of times when I'm filming, if I'm taking multiple shots, a lot of the times I've probably got it maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe even 4 times. But I like to have that insurance, you know what I mean? And that's the least you can do, is make sure that if you got everything set up, you got all the people there, get it done while you can, you know, because once the actors are gone, you're effed. Another question: are you coming out with any films this year of 2021? Maybe Halloween of 2021, perhaps, or maybe before that as well? Yes. And Nick, I'll be needing you soon for the next short film, which is going to be called Old Man, which I've yet to really discuss with you guys about. So stay tuned for that, Nick. I'll be talking to you about that soon. We're going to be shooting it here at my apartment, and it's going to be a blast. And it's very very low budget. It's not going to cost much at all in terms of shooting it. I mean, it's going to cost a little bit of cash because there's some food involved in it, but other than that, it's going to be a nice little gore horror fest. And, like, you know, with our limited crew, like, I love our crew, you know. So Nick, thank you for all the questions. That was dope. I appreciate you for doing that, man. Next we got a question from Multi-World. Multi-World? I believe this is Kyle. Because the other day when I'd seen this question come into the thing, it was a different channel name, and Kyle is known to change his name more than a girl changes her clothes. So we got, what do you miss most about collecting comics? I barely collected them, but being a friend, I feel like you've been within your comic book history since Bluntman 53, maybe even before, so I do miss the times/videos of the comic book era. What do I miss most about collecting comics? I miss going to the comic book shop a lot. That was probably, you know, I really loved going to the comic book store and just poring over all the comics, like new and old, like people that go back as far as Kyle to my videos, like, you know, I was collecting comics heavy for a while, so it was always really fun for me to go to a comic book store and flick through the books, look at the new titles, you know, even talk a little bit with the owners and the employees and stuff. That was always a fun time for me. And then coming home, taking them out of like the store bags and boards and putting them in new ones and taping them, reading them, all that kind of stuff, looking at the artwork, you know, because I'll be the first to admit, during my tenure as a comic book collector, there was a lot of comics that I didn't read. You know, I just didn't read, and but I would always look through them. And like find like crazy things. Like I still have tons of comic books, man. So expect maybe a comic book video in the near future, because I still, like, I've only moved in here. I've been in here for a month at this new apartment, and there's still a lot of stuff that I need to go through. So expect a comic book video shortly. Next part of Kyle's question. What's your favorite Pokemon? What's my favorite Pokemon is probably fucking Blastoise, because I remember I pulled a Blastoise out of a pack of cards when I was a kid, and that was like a big fucking deal. Blastoise was like, you know how, for those of you that are not into Pokemon, it goes like the 3 main guys from my era are Venusaur or Ivysaur, Charizard, and Blastoise. And when I got the Blastoise, and he's like the water guy, I fucking love that shit. What is my favorite Pokemon related memory? My favorite Pokemon related memory is, I remember Christmas, probably like 98 or 99. I don't even think my brother was born yet, so probably 98. My brother was probably just born, but my mom and my dad, who had recently, they split up, but they went together and got a Game Boy Color, which was purple, and they got me Pokemon Yellow. And the thing about that was, I opened the Pokemon Yellow first, and I'll never forget my mom being pissed off because she's like, oh, fuck, it's spoiled. Like, now you know you're getting the Game Boy. And I think everyone from our era fucking poured over the Game Boy games, Pokemon games, and just, I still think it's one of the best game. I haven't played a lot in the series. I played like maybe like, you know, I've played maybe, let's say there's 20, I've probably played 3 or 4, and I've always had a blast with it, but nothing will compare to like Pokemon Yellow for me on a purple Game Boy. That would just be like supreme. If I ever like hit the fucking lotto, I will definitely get that set up and, just, I had a little purple light that was like a spiral cord thing that went over top of it so I could play it at night, going through batteries, all that kind of shit. That's a good question, Kyle. Brings me back. Also, not a question, but you should collect figures again and maybe do some videos on them. Would be cool to see. See, I appreciate you saying that, but I just feel like action figures to me is just something that I was into for a bit, but I was more into it because I was into it for like the wrong reasons, meaning like I didn't really give a shit about them. I just wanted to have a big collection of stuff, and it was just like, what the fuck am I doing? When I sold them off, I only kept 2 figures, and those were 2 that my brother bought me, and it was I believe an alien figure and a predator figure, or a predator figure and Planet of the Apes figure, because me and my brother, we fucking love Planet of the Apes, especially that, like the newest trilogy. I think is just an amazing film going experience. We saw them all in the theater. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was like on par with the impact that like the Dark Knight from the Christopher Nolan franchise had, like with the Joker, like everything about that movie was so fucking good, and it just overshadows like the other ones like to the 10th degree. But Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, holy fuck, that was good. So yeah, thanks for asking the questions, Kyle. That was awesome. All right, so now we got a question from one of my oldest friends on YouTube. We got Jean Paul Ace Peter, aka GPAP, who I believe is going to be making a comeback very soon. He's a comic book channel. Great guy. I've talked to him many nights. Many nights we stayed up late, smoking weed, and stuff like that. The crazy thing about it is I don't smoke weed anymore. I don't smoke blunts. Like, it's crazy, man. I feel way better though. But let's see what Jean Paul Ace Peter, aka Sean, has to ask. He's got a few questions here. All right, so Argento or Fulchi. So maybe a few years ago I might have said Fulchi, but now I might even be, this isn't like an actual answer, but I'm kind of in the middle, because I love Argento for the Animal trilogy. I love Fulchi for the Gates of Hell trilogy, and of course Zombie. And I'm not the biggest fan of Suspiria. I gotta watch it again, because I think the last time I seen it, I was just not in the right mindset for that kind of film. A lot of people know, and I've discussed recently, that Italian films, like, sometimes they kind of drag a little bit, but I remember watching Suspiria and being like, this is crazy, like the coloring and all that stuff. And with Fulci, it's like he's got a knack for, and he was with Giannetto De Rossi doing a lot of the special effects. He's like the Italian Tom Savini, and I think that with Argento, like that Animal trilogy, which is Bird with Crystal Plumage, Cat of Nine Tails, and Four Flies on Grey Velvet, and they're all giallo films, and they're all just spectacular. So it's really hard for me to pick between those two. But right now, if I had to answer, I'd probably say Fulci. Next question from Sean: Psycho or Peeping Tom? Now I'm gonna sound like a fucking novice here. I've yet to see Peeping Tom. I've heard about it for years. I don't own it. I don't know if I'll be able to get it anytime soon. Probably be able to stream it online in a less than legal way. But I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out. I've heard that it's like the prototype for the slasher film, and being a horror film, I love my slashers. So but the thing is, like, of course I love my slashers, meaning like your Freddys, your Jasons, your Chuckies, your Leprechauns, all that kind of stuff. But like when I think about it, that's sort of like the tip of the iceberg with horror films, because there's so much more. You got slashers like Maniac, which I love. You got slashers like The Prowler, which I wasn't the biggest fan of when I first seen it, but I'll give it another chance. You got franchises like Sleepaway Camp. I was about to combine Sleepaway Camp with Slumber Party Massacre in this weird fucking word vomit, but both those franchises are pretty crazy. Evil Dead, would you call those slasher films? Probably not, but they kind of fit in the same vein. When you look at the Mount Rushmore of horror, usually Ash is up there. Even though he's not like the horror villain, but he's the villain in some ways. And then Sean's last question: what was one of the earliest channels to follow you on here with a winky face? It was you, buddy. It's definitely Sean. Respect for the question, buddy. Next we got This Is an Error, also known as VZ Madness. He recently went through a rebranding. Roy, what's he got to say? What movie are you most excited for in 2021? Now, this is going to be crazy, but I don't even know what's coming out this year. Like, the only thing that I can think of is that Candyman film, but I believe that's already out. I don't know if it made physical home, like a physical release yet, but Candyman would probably be the answer. Oh, and okay, no, I do got one for you. The Robert Eggers that did The Witch and The Lighthouse. He's working on a new film. I believe it's called The Viking or something. The Northman. Something to do with like Viking shit. I have high hopes for that film because this guy is a fucking mastermind behind the camera. He's a director's director, and I just think he's gonna go far in this genre, much like Ari Aster, who did, of course, Hereditary and Midsommar, which I feel like I talk about a lot. But yeah, I would definitely say that new Robert Eggers film. What is your most wanted VHS? My most wanted VHS would probably be, that's a really, okay, I don't know if this is a very rare film, but Style Wars, which is a graffiti documentary from like 1983 or 1982. I would love to own that. That's probably my most wanted right now. In terms of horror, probably The Beyond, which is the only, The Beyond and House by the Cemetery. I don't have either of those on tape. Those are very much most wanted. And probably lastly, just because I could probably go on forever with this, I would love to own all of the female Prisoner Scorpion films on VHS. So all 4 of the original series. I think that would be badass. Yeah, I could fucking go on with that question forever, dude. That's a good one. That might be like a good video on its own, to be honest with you. Also, the best Godzilla movie, the first one, dude. The very first one before the Americans got involved with the Raymond Burr cut and all that. The original Gojira from, I believe, 1954 with the Japanese language playing, reading the subtitles. It's the best, hands down. And from the 70s, I would probably say, I guess it's easy to say like versus Megalon, but I think I really like the way Megalon looks from the sort of the 90s series. Well, into the 80s, like there's Godzilla 1985. Really like that. The only let me continue before I get into my little story there. Godzilla 2000, I really do like. Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, any of like the sort of 90s Godzilla, because when I first got into the whole Godzilla like thing, I'd always been a fan, but I thought the 70s stuff was like the best you could get, and then I started watching them and I was like, fuck, this isn't that great. And then I got into the 90s stuff and I'm like, man, this is where it's at, because it's just very, how do I say, it's just neon filled spectacular shit to look at for me. Giant monsters, you know, usually a fun and cool human aspect to the film, because spoiler alert, most of the Godzilla film doesn't have Godzilla in it. Final Wars is a good one, of course. I even do like the I'm not crazy on all the fucking, you know, practical, or excuse me, non-practical, what would you call them, CGI effects in that newest one that is like, I guess the precursor to the one that they're going to be having versus King Kong. I think it was called Godzilla King of the Monsters. Like Ghidorah was in that, and it was like it was a spectacle, you know, it was a cool thing to watch, but you know, just the lack of practical effects hurt my heart and probably hurt other people's hearts. And I did like Shin Godzilla. Fun little story about that. Got to see that in theater with my little brother, and we were there was one screening of that film in London, and we were at it, and it was like me, my brother, and then maybe like 15 Japanese dudes and chicks, and that was it. And we just watched the film, and it was pretty fucking cool. Pretty good movie. Looking forward to more of the Toho franchise coming out, because, you know, Toho is where Godzilla originated from, you know, like the Japanese started this franchise, let them finish it, you know. Oh, and my other story I wanted to talk about Godzilla real quick was the only ones that I'd seen in theater. I'd seen Godzilla 2000, I'd seen Godzilla with Kick-Ass, Godzilla the sequel, King of the Monsters, and Shin Godzilla. Godzilla 2000 I seen when I was a kid with my Uncle Mike, who I've talked about countless times on the channel. Yeah, so I love the idea of Godzilla. I love Godzilla films. It's just the 70s stuff just doesn't really do it for me. And I know my friend JD J-Rod would probably be kicking my ass right now for saying that shit, but sorry, dude. So Roy, thanks for the question, buddy. Give him a subscribe. This is an air. I know he just put out a new video talking about his favorite movies of the year, so I'll be checking that out. Next, we got a question from Retro or Die, who is my comrade in arms on the VHS Graveyard podcast, which we're hoping to do another film episode of that very shortly. He's got a few questions here. Best scene in a horror movie. Best scene in a horror movie, probably in Dawn of the Dead. Like, this is my own opinion, right? In Dawn of the Dead, it's not even like a horror, like it's horrifying, but it's not like a monster part. It's when Wooly boots the door open and just blows that guy's head off. Because when I was a kid, I was like, that is so fucking crazy. I love that shit. Anything to do with like Romero, I'm in. Most overhyped horror franchise. I think we talked about this recently on the podcast. Scream. I don't think Scream is that great. I'm gonna read question 4 before question 3 because I want to end it with question 3 on the Retro or Dies stuff. He says, horror video games. Do you have any favorites and why? I love Manhunt. Okay, never beat it yet. I mean, I got it on my brother's PS4. I'm not in possession of it right now, but I really love that game. It's a survival horror game. Never really got into like the Resident Evil stuff. My only really experience with that franchise is through watching other people play it at their houses. And there'd be like a guy like playing like Resident Evil 4 where we're like passing around the blunt or something like that, you know. And I had played Manhunt 2 when it first came out, and I remember I got to a point where like you're crawling through this hole in the basement and this like baby face appears. I was playing it on a PSP. I had to turn it off. I said, nope, I'm not fucking doing that. Because like I'm a horror fan, but I feel like with horror movies, it's fed to you, you know. It's kind of like a video game and a book is like in the same way where like you got to feed it to yourself and like you freak yourself out. You know, you're doing this to yourself where horror film is doing it to you. You know, it's hard to explain, but there was a Silent Hill game I had back in the day. I played a little bit of, like you start off in a room. I think it might have been called The Room. And there's like a face on the wall, and then you go in this hole in the bathroom, and next thing you know, you're in like this fucking subway tunnel or something. Like shit like that. I just couldn't handle. I was just too like pussified or freaked out by it. I don't know, man. I really do. Maybe I'd appreciate them now more. I don't own any horror video games on PS2. I got a decent little stack of PS2 games, but yeah, man. And the final question from Forrest is a tricky one here. Favorite non-horror movie franchise? I could think of a few right off the bat. John Wick 1, 2, and 3. Love those. Female Prisoner Scorpion, which I just mentioned in a few questions ago. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I just mentioned that. Dirty Harry films. There's quite a few when you think about it, man. Like, I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's a few just right off the bat, and I feel like I could do a whole video talking about that as well. So possibly stay tuned for that. So Forrest, thanks for the questions. Retro or Die, give him a subscribe. And finally, we got Radioactive Blob Fuel, who's sort of a regular commenter on my channel here. Just off the top of your head, any films that were a complete letdown after promising box art or a decent first half? The most recent for me was The 11th Commandment. Decent slasher setup, but transformed into a boring soap opera. Drama that really shit the bed. Also, favorite outer space horror that isn't Alien. For me, it's 1984's Creature. So to answer the first half, this is a movie that let me down, not as bad as maybe what 11th Commandment did to you, but Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. Let down, dude. Shit. There's been quite a few, but a lot of the ones that really let me down, I just kind of like sweep under the rug. Like, I know I don't upload every movie, or I don't talk about every movie in a video and upload it on YouTube. Because some of the ones that I don't like, I'm just like, you know what, fuck it, it's not even worth my time. Some of the letdowns, though, like some of those, basically anything on Netflix that's horror related is a letdown in my opinion. Fuck, dude, that's a hard question for me to answer, because like I said, I just fucking totally forget about the shit. What was the other part of the question? Come on, you bastard. Favorite outer space horror film that isn't Alien. Okay. Probably... Holy shit, man. That's kind of a hard question for me to answer. I gotta think for a minute here. That isn't Alien? Alien is so supreme. Um, does Armageddon count? No, I'm joking. Oh, okay. Okay, I got a few. I had to cheat, I'm not gonna lie. Starship Troopers, man. I know it's not a direct horror film, but it's one of my favorite movies, and it's directed by Paul Verhoeven, who did RoboCop, and I just love his sense of humor. I think he's very just kind of my flavor of movie, if you want to call it that. Another one that I got off the Google list here is it's a movie that I haven't actually seen in a while, but it's called Moon, and it's got Sam Rockwell in it, and I really love that actor. It's a horror film in a way, but it's not like a total, excuse me, like slasher type film. It's more like psychologically fucking depressing or horrific. So yeah, that's. I might have to come back to that question eventually in a video, because I feel like I haven't seen that many outer space horror films. Like, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I don't remember that movie taking place in outer space. Invaders from Mars was another one. There's quite a few that I can think of that start off in outer space. I think Night of the Creeps does, but they all end up on Earth. So I did my best to answer the question, dude. I really appreciate the question, by the way. So that does it. So I had a blast. That was fucking fun. So look forward to another Q&A in the future, because I think that was a good way to get some a little bit of fun happening, man. So that was probably like 40 minutes. So yeah, I appreciate everybody for leaving questions, and just stay tuned for more videos. I filmed a few the other day, so I still have one more to upload from that batch, and then it'll be on to the next thing. So look forward for videos possibly on the Takashi Miike films, maybe the Lone Wolf and Cub series. I got that 5-pack. And maybe John Wick. There's a lot of stuff I want to get to. So I appreciate everybody for watching, subscribing, all that stuff. You guys are really fucking cool. I consider you guys like buddies, And with that being said, thanks for watching, and adios. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the rest of your lockdown. If you're on lockdown, if you're not, that's great. If you are, make the most of it, dude. Draw some fucking shit. Paint some shit. Read some shit. Watch some shit. And have a lovely day. Adios.